My name is Matt Solomon. I'm the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Texarkana, Texas. And over the last year since being appointed as the Historic Preservation Officer, been on a journey learning about the people of our community and our long history dating back even before Texarkana was founded. And in those discussions, I've gotten to meet Jeffery Sams, who's sitting at the opposite end of the table from me. And I'm going to let Jeffery introduce himself.
My name is Jeffery Sams. I am a deputy prosecuting attorney in Miller County, Arkansas. I guess for the purposes of what we're doing here today, I'm also, I think, a family friend of the Masseys. And this is Denton Massey beside me. And I was fortunate enough many years ago to walk in this house and learn about a knife that Denton had made, and how, and I'm sure he's going to tell this whole story a little later, but that there was one more knife like it that he could make, and I popped off, I want it, and I got it. And, you know, we're here to talk about that today and kind of how all that came about, and really shine a spotlight on the maker of the knife and not on the guy that was, you know, lucky enough to walk in and buy the thing. So with that, Denton Massey, tell us your full name if you would.
All right, my name is Roger Denton Massey. I used to go by Roger D. Some people, my friends and my family, know me as Denton. The people in the knife community know me as Roger. That's kind of a weird deal, but that happened years ago. I won't get into that. And I'm a master smith in the American Bladesmith Society. I started in 1991, went to the bladesmithing school, which at that time was at Washington, Arkansas, and was taught by a good friend of mine, Jim Crow. And from there I just started out. I didn't have no idea that I would get as big as I did. I just had the feeling of making something creative, and the knives was kind of part of it. I went through a period about 10 years of shooting at Texarkana Gun Club, is where I met Bill Hughes, which was one of the founding members of the American Bladesmith Society. There was 4 of them. And he didn't make knives. He was just, like I say, he was dean of students at Texarkana College, and we become good friends, but he was gun club president, got to know him real well. And I learned in that he wrote some magazine articles for guns, and also he was probably one of the first ones that started writing in these magazines of these custom knives that people was making. There was very few makers out there. He had a knowledge of just a few of them, but he started making it, and people started reading this, and it just kind of grew from there. They incorporated the Bladesmith Society, and it just kind of bloomed from there. Like I say, I started in 1991. I cured my journeyman-smith, and I'll go through that here in a minute. You joined the ABS. You start out as an apprentice. 2 years later, you're able to apply for your journeyman, and then 2 years after that, you can apply for your master's. And it takes you 4 years. Now, in that, I was telling them a while ago that you start out, and the way you get your journeyman is you have to make like a Bowie knife, and I'll show you this. It's bent. I'll explain that here in a minute. But it can be no longer than 10 inches. Looks like a Bowie knife. Some people, when the first blade show went, a lot of people just made it, hammered it out, and just taped the handle. Well, I wanted mine to look like a knife, so I did. But you must cut a 1-inch sisal twine rope, free hanging. There's no weight on the bottom of it, within the last 6 inches of it. It must cut it completely in two.
And so where do you tie the rope on top with? What's the rope tied?
If we was out there in the shop, we'd just throw it over a beam.
Now, would you tie it up, or would it just lay across the beam?
I would probably hold
it with
the
your
other end. Now, if it was short enough, yeah, I would tie it up there.
Yeah.
But there would be no weight on the
No
bottom.
weight on, and so
Yeah,
you almost have. So I'm envisioning a rope hanging,
Right.
and it has a little J on the end of it.
Yeah.
So really, that last 6 inches, I mean, it is just blowing in the wind.
And you can kind of move around to where you're comfortable with it, and move the height though, because everybody is different height. Say, okay, this is a good cutting height for me, and I'll move to where I can get advantage to the J. Like I say, most time and you can cut straight.
And now, does it matter what angle you cut at? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
smart,
that's-
then you're. Is that a
the
little
trick
bit of
is
the game?
you don't cut it like this because
Yeah,
all you're going
because
to do
you
is
just
knock
push
the
it.
rope out that
Yeah.
way. You actually will cut it at an angle because as it comes down through it, if your knife is sharp enough and does what it wants to do, it will bite into it and cut it.
Yeah.
Once you cut that rope in two cleanly, it cannot be hanging by a thread. Then you will take 2 2x4s and chop them in two, like you had a hand axe. You would actually cut it very aggressively. Once you cut both them 2x4s in two, then
And now you were telling me you can't just chop.
no, it's
you,
not.
You got to be swinging.
I want you to swing it hard.
And-
You will do this in front of a master smith.
Yeah. And now, how many? I mean, just guess how many swings you think it takes on the average person to go through that.
Probably 10, 12.
10, 12,
I've
okay.
seen people do it a lot less.
Yeah. So you got the one cut on the rope, and 10 to 12. I mean,
Yeah.
and at some point, does the master smith go? It ain't gonna make it.
Well, no.
I mean,
I
as you're chopping on the 2x4s.
Yeah,
there,
usually that's not where
that's not where the problem is.
Problem is.
Okay.
Usually, if it cuts the rope and they cleanly cut through the next is where some of them failing. I fail some. Is once you do that and everything's okay, I'll look at the blade. Now, if it's no chips or anything in the edge, and it's not damaged, because that can fail you.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no damage in it, we'll take and bend it 90 degrees
Now, what about I thought you were telling me earlier the razor blade. Is that
Yeah.
that's before or after the bend?
after you
Okay.
bend.
Okay.
Well, before you bend, excuse
Before
me.
you bend.
I'll back up. Before you get ready to bend, then you will shave the hair on your arm. That's when you do. To make sure that it's still in the area that you've chopped the 2x4s, usually in about this area, you will shave the hair on your arm. Now, if it does all that, you're pretty well almost home free. But I failed a lot of them because it won't bend, it'll break.
So you put it in a vise.
Vice, and you will physically pull this, and I'll watch it until it completely bends to 90 degrees. If it does all right, usually they'll spring back about like that.
And just for the viewers, I think you've told me before, is this the one that you used? Was this your
Yes.
Master Smith knife?
This is my journeyman smith.
Okay. Okay, and that was bent to a 90-degree angle, and
Yes.
it has since kind of straightened out some. So,
Right. As you release the pressure, usually they will come back.
Okay.
Because you'll clamp about 2 inches in there, and then you will physically pull it, and it's pretty hard. If it's good knife, you'll have to have both hands on it, pulling all you can.
Now, how long did it take you to make that knife?
I tell people I don't know how long it takes me to make a knife because I do it until I'm. Of course, the knives that I sold, I do it until I'm happy with it.
Well, I think the point is you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah,
into
a lot
it,
of time
and
into
then
it.
you see
Yeah.
it put in that vise,
Right.
and it go to bending. Is that? I mean, is that about compared to? I mean, I don't know to passing to getting to passing the bar maybe.
Right.
To,
Because as I tell a lot of them, I said before you come and see me or contact me, is you can take that knife, you can do everything but bend it.
Yeah.
You can while you're at home, test
Because
it.
you can resharpen it all.
You
the-
resharpen it. You can do everything you want to. You can cut your rope. You can chop your 2x4s, resharpen the knife, make it good and sharp. Well, when you get here, we'll do all that, and you cannot resharpen that knife in between these
No.
tests. It cuts the rope, chops the 2x4s, shaves the hair on the arm, and then we'll bend it. You won't resharpen it, and then we'll bend it.
Wow.
And if you've done your heat treatment right and done everything right, it'll bend. But if you didn't and you've not done everything right, it's gonna break.
All right. So this is your journeyman's knife, and
This is journeyman's.
You started on that one.
Right,
before
and
I
then
know.
2 years after you make your journeyman, you'll apply for your master's. You do the same thing. The cut test is exactly the same. The only thing that you do it with is a Damascus bladed knife. You can see the pattern in it.
Yeah, I can. Sure can.
I was about to say, you just mentioned Damascus. Can you explain to us what a Damascus blade is?
Right, Damascus is a layered steel. It's got to be 2 different kinds of steel in order to etch it so you can see it. We can layer it up with all the same amount of, like if I've done it out of 5160 or 1084, if all of them was 1084 and we welded them together, you couldn't see the pattern. So some way or another, you must put something in between there that the pattern will show up. A lot of times they'll have I used a 15 N20, which got a little bit of nickel in it. So nickel doesn't etch as fast as the other, so that's where the pattern comes in. And that's what the bladesmith a lot of them are known for. Bill Moran, which was another one of the founding members, and I don't know what year, nobody had ever seen a Damascus bladed knife. Now we have pictures and stuff where they made it years, centuries ago. The Japanese sword is a Damascus bladed knife. Because they had steels, and I'll get into that a little bit, they had different kinds of steels. One of them was super hard, one was real soft. So they married these steels together to make the carbon content a little less, because too much carbon in it, it's brittle.
Yeah.
So you have to marry these
So
steels together.
you get the qualities of the different steel all combined into one.
And that's what you do to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what Damascus is. It's and that's what Bill Moran come up with, and he talked about it at one of the shows that he had one on the table. People was amazed. They had no idea what it was. Never seen anything before. We have examples of Damascus barrel shotguns, rifles, back in the 1800s. Well, people still didn't know what to do. I went to a museum in, where was it? It's a famous museum. And what got me off is they had Damascus barrel rifles and stuff there, but they did not acknowledge what the barrel was made of.
Really?
Did not.
Was that in Europe or in the United States?
It's in the United States. It's close to the, and it'll come to me in a minute, but it's a well-known museum.
And who was that again? Say that again. Who was it that came up with
Bill Moran.
Bill Moran. He's
Bill
the one
Moran.
that
He's one of the founding members also.
Okay. And so he rediscovered
Kind of the
Damascus.
Yeah.
And now I mean just about any store you go in, you can find different. I mean, obviously some of them are different qualities, right? But I mean, it's hard for me as a younger person to imagine a world where you hadn't seen it.
Hadn't seen it.
And because it's so prevalent now.
Yeah. Well, I say to forge well, and most of the blacksmiths knew how to forge well, but to marry the steels together that you need to marry together to where you can efficiently do that and have a very cutting knife, that's what they couldn't do.
Yeah.
And of course they never thought about just making different layers and doing this stuff. But
can you imagine the look on his face when he put those layers together?
Yeah,
and it came
like
out
and then come out with the Damascus. And I was going to tell you too, your master smith must be at least 300 layers.
300 layers.
300 layers.
Wow.
Now, when you're talking about 300, you're talking about, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is you are putting them on that forge and you are bending them. So one becomes two, and then you bend it again, two becomes four.
Yeah.
And
you can do that, but the best way to do it, because you're marrying different, like say you can take just all carbon steel, but you have to have another layer in there to be able to physically look at them. Is another one that's either got some chromium or some other alloy in it that's going to
different
up,
types of metals that you're then sandwiching together.
What I used to do when I first started, I started out with 3 layers. Well, this layer, the top layer and the bottom layer can be the same. The middle layer had either some chromium or something in it, and you forge weld it together, and then when you cut and fold it together, you got 6. Now 6, 12. You can see how you build the layers.
Yeah.
Later on, my best, I've done 5 layers. Usually it's an odd layer. Works best because, like I say, every other layer you can have something different. Or 7 layers. There's some people that stacks up like shim stock. Well, they'll have 30 or 40 layers or 60 layers. But the stuff that I use was usually 1/4 inch thick, so 5 layers or 7 layers work real good for me. And I could layer it up. And like I say, to make 300 layers or pretty close to 300 layers didn't take you long. 6 or 7 folds and you'll have it.
Is there a way that when you're going, how do you verify that there's that many layers?
You just keep up with your layer count.
Well, so when you go to the test.
Okay.
If you're looking at a knife, you can say, well, there's probably 300, there's only 100 in that one.
I mean, it's hard to really tell. If you just looked at one that was laying on the table, something like that, if it's going between, if you can see the layers and get a good pattern, more than likely, because your eye can see 300 to 500 layers give you enough definition that you see it. I can make one 1,000,000 layers, but you couldn't see the definition of the layers. When you get up thousands of layers, they get finer and finer until it's hard to see. So a knife to visually look at that's laying on the table, or somebody's got, or you're gonna sell it, 500 layers, it's gonna be pretty close.
Okay.
Now as you go down to a smaller knife, like you was making a folder, you can cut that layer down because the blade is so small. You can cut that layer count down instead of 300 layers, maybe cutting up close, maybe 100, 200 layers, depending on the pattern. There's so many patterns out there you can build. I've built a lot what you call a ladder pattern. I've done a raindrop pattern. All this takes manipulating of the pattern. There's people out there that can make, you can print your name in the blade.
Really?
I had a friend down here in Shreveport made running horses in the blade.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. You think, well, how did they do that? Well, he had the horses water jet out, stacked them together, welded them, and then in the Damascus blade, he cut out a picture and put the horses in there and welded them in there. So the horse goes all the way through. A running horse would be, you can see it on this way going this way, and on this side it would be going this way because you can see all the way through it. I mean, you can grind it further and further in, but the horse or the pattern is still there.
Wow.
I had another friend out in Florida. He showed me some little, and he started out with big one. It was 3 different pictures. It was a picture of some dogs on a point that's pointing at some quail. The little quail was a different picture, and then the man with the shotgun was another picture. So them 3 pictures, but it started out this big. So once you weld them together and you start collapsing them to make them smaller and smaller, then you marry them together where now it was on a big boulder, but you could tell the man, the dogs, and the quail, and he had the gun up.
That's cool.
And you could see each one of them.
Yeah.
Because he showed me the first ones that he made, and the picture of the guy with the gun didn't collapse it, and the shotgun was going back. So he had to remake that.
Yeah.
There's different ways to do it. Yeah, we can get involved in that, but you can have them water jetted out to where they fit together. You can stack them up. You can actually put patterns and pour powdered metal in a can, weld it all together in that can, cut the can away. Now you've got a picture because the powdered metal will fill all around it.
Fascinating. It really is fascinating. So where were you born and raised at?
I was born in Atlanta, Texas, down here about 20 to 30 miles. My daddy worked construction. We lived in a lot of different places, all the way from Minnesota to my youngest brother was born in Ohio.
Okay.
But we ended back here because he went to Greenland. Back in
And what's Greenland?
Greenland, the big island.
Island?
Greenland.
Owned by Denmark?
Denmark.
Oh, yeah, Greenland, the country.
Yeah.
The actual
Greenland
Greenland.
country.
Okay, yeah, okay.
At that time, it was building, during the Cold War, and that back late 50s and early 60s, they were building what they call a dew line.
Okay.
There was radar stations along that dew line because if Russia was going to send a missile into the United States, it's over the ice cap. That's the closest way.
Yeah.
So they built them radar stations on, and he moved us back here to be close to family because we couldn't go there because they built that radar station on top of the ice cap.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I thought for sure you were going to say because he ended up working at the radar station here in Texarkana.
No, he didn't. He once he done all that and come back here, he worked at several construction jobs. I know he went to South Dakota when they was building some silos, missile silos.
Yeah.
And he worked up there for a while. But he ended back up here and went to work out at Dan Zimmerman. We all called it the Bullet Mill. And it was a temporary job. He thought, they told him 90 days we're opening a line up because Vietnam was booming. They was opening a new line. Said once we get it up and get it running, probably you get laid off. Well, luck would have it. He just stayed on, and eventually he retired from there.
Wow.
And we stayed here. But my grandparents live right down here at Dodgers, so this is kind of home. But
Yeah.
I started, I think, the 8th grade here, but till I was 8th grade, it was wherever. I tell people, I said, wherever that trailer house was, that was home. Done moved there.
Yeah. And so, graduated high school in Atlanta, I guess?
No, I graduated high school right here in Texarkana.
Oh, did you?
Arkansas
Okay.
High. Mhm.
Okay.
And
then
I
what'd
said
you
once we moved here, I started 8th grade and I finished at
So what'd you do after you graduated high school?
basically I took a college course that summer and I never went back. I started in the industry that my daddy was in. It was pipe fitter plumber.
Okay.
And I got my apprenticeship. I went to work at DNZ. Of course,
Okay.
we were working out
Yeah.
there. They needed some apprentices. I went to work out there. Started my apprenticeship out there, and I started about 5 years. And of course, Vietnam was booming down. Got laid off. I done a little construction work. Worked on a nuclear powerhouse out of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
We helped build this paper mill down here.
Did you?
Yes. I know you probably heard of the story of when the tank collapsed and killed 6, 8, 10 people.
Vaguely, yeah.
Okay, I watched it fall.
Mm.
I watched it fall, and but either way,
What year was that in?
1971,
Okay.
best I remember, because they started in the production in '72. They was winding up. I went back to DNZ because they was hiring some. Daddy told me they was hiring some people. I went back there and stayed a year, and then luck would have it, I got a wild hair and I quit. Went back on the road.
So how long would you say you were a plumber for then?
Well, that was pipe fitting, but me and my brother
Or pipe fitting, excuse me, yeah.
But me and my brother took we had master's license in Arkansas and Texas as plumbers. We tried to get in business in Texarkana.
Okay.
We wanted to start our own business, but it was hard to break into. We done some work, plumbing work. You remember the high rise that's over here in Robinson Courts?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, when it was coming out of the ground.
Mm.
Little sad story about it. 2 plumbers was in the ditch, and they was when it was coming out of the ground, the ditch caved in and killed both of them.
Mm.
The Monday after they died, we went to work there.
Really?
Yeah, on that same job. I done a little work there. Moved me over to the college. It was I think the library or one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They was building it, and I finished up. I put the fixtures in it and done it. We worked on that school that was down on 35th. Was it the middle school?
On 35th?
North Heights,
North Heights.
Yep.
Yeah, North Heights.
on the
junior
outside
high, or
side,
now it's elementary
Yeah.
school.
Junior high.
Yes, sir.
They was building it. We finished up on it. Of course, got laid off. Went to Hope. They built them. They was building 2 hotels up there at Hope. One was Holiday Inn. I just got the one across the road, and of course, it's not Holiday Inn now. I think it's something else. But anyway, we stayed there about 9 months and kind of finished that job up, and thought we was going to go back on the road. And I applied. Paper mill been running about 2 years, and went down there and said, well, I want to stay close to home, my family.
Yeah.
I was married, had a couple of kids, a couple of kids.
And so, as I was tracking your story, you mentioned that you were a plumber, and then you said that at DNZ you were pipe fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Was the rest of this stuff all plumbing, or was it
Well,
welding and nature?
when I worked for here in town, it was a plumbing job.
Okay, and then when you went out to the paper mill, was it?
Well, like I say, I went to the paper mill. There's 2 qualifications. You either instrument electrician, or you're a general mechanic.
Okay.
Well, they hired me as a general mechanic. They had a fellow told me they almost hired me as an electrician because I had instrument work.
Mm.
I'd worked a job at Tulsa, Oklahoma, in instruments, air instruments. When I was at DNZ, we opened the line over there, and all the air, everything, because it was explosive. Well, the more you can get away from electrical,
Oh yeah.
the arc or anything like that, the better off you are. So all the machines were set up, and they was all instrument, air control.
Okay.
All of it was air control. I had cabinets out there, and my electrical prints, I call them electrical prints, actually looked like electrical print.
But it was all air.
It was all air control. I had the same symbols and everything. Of course, on air control, you don't have a neutral like you do electricity, because you exhaust air. So you didn't have that problem. You exhaust air. But I had cabinets out there. It was like this and this wide, and just full of relays and stuff like that to do what we wanted to do.
Wow.
But and I told them about that part, and they thought maybe they would hire me as an electrician, but they didn't because of my instrument work.
Yeah.
because of the paper mill or any place like that. I worked a job in Tulsa that I worked on the instruments up there. We put all the instruments in, run the lines, and checked them all out and make sure that they were within the gauge.
Mhm.
Of course, that's old technology. Nowadays, it's all electronics.
Yeah.
It's all electronics. Back then was all there.
No, interesting. So, at what point did you get interested in knife making?
Well, like I say, I'd went to, started shooting at the gun club. A friend of mine was shooting out there, and he invited me to go out there, and I thought, well, this is kind of neat. I like this. I always liked guns, like knives. And through my association with Bill Hughes, I found out they started a school up here in
About
in the
what
80s.
year was that? In the 80s?
I think in
Early
the 80s, middle 80s or
Okay.
something like that. And I kept talking to him, and I thought, and I told my wife, I said, you know, I keep thinking about this, and she said, well, either get on or get off. Quit thinking about it. I said, well, it's going to take this, and I'll take 2 weeks off because it's a 2-week school. But at the time I'd been at the paper mill long enough, I had about 3 or 4 weeks of vacation, so it was easy enough for me to do. So yeah, fine.
That
We
sounds
can
like my
afford it.
kind of vacation
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
to a knife making
But that's
school.
what I
Yeah.
done. So I went up there, and like I say,
How
I
long
thought-
had that school been open when you first went? Do you
Well,
remember?
like I say, I went there in '91, and like I say, I think it started in '86, so it'd been established.
Okay, so
yeah,
still fairly
5
new.
years.
Now,
fairly
is that, are there other places in the country that you know that you can go do that, or is it fairly unique?
There's more and more of them now.
Yeah.
At that time, that was kind of preeminent. That was it. That was
Yeah.
here, because we had people come from. I got a guy from Australia,
Really?
Europe, South America.
All in your class with you?
That was in.
Or-
well, you
or
know,
had gone through the
over
school,
different
yeah.
times. But yeah, there was one that went with me. I think he was from Canada.
Really?
Yeah, they come from all over the world to go to that school. Now there are more schools that are opening up. The ABS have opened up several different here, there, and the other. Even we have some mastersmiths in South Africa that you can get qualified through the ABS.
Wow. Now, what? To not to talk too much about the school, but when you go to that 2-week school, what do you get out of it? When you walk out the door,
If you
what do
done
you have?
if you done your job and done what you're supposed to do, you'll have enough knowledge, not 100% everything that you need to know, but you'll have enough that you can get started. How to forge it, why? I'll get into why we forge, but how to heat treat it,
Yeah.
and be able to set it up. Now the handle guards, of course, comes later. You can take a handles guard, but you'll be able to set your knife up to be able to get a handles guard.
And then 2 years after practicing, you should have enough knowledge to
Yeah.
do your journeyman.
Right, and when I come out of there, I started making a few knives and sold them around here locally to my friends and people that I knew, hunt knives, because that's a big,
What was
big
the
deal
first?
for the party.
Do you recall the first knife you sold or that you made?
I don't recall the first one. I've got the very first knife I made is out there, and kind of
Really?
not the smoothest of best, but it looks all right. It looks
Yeah.
all right, and I don't remember who the first one I made for. Probably somebody at the paper mill I knew said, "Hey, build me a knife, hunting knife," because that was like around this part of the country, everybody
Yeah.
hunts. So
Yeah.
a good hunting knife, yeah, you could sell that.
Yeah.
I sold them fairly cheap, and then I just built my reputation. I went to my first show, which was a blade show. I got to know some of the mastersmiths. Of course, Bill Moran, through his association and my teacher and all, I got to know some of them that was from around here pretty close.
Yeah.
And so I went to my first blade show, kind of didn't know nobody from nobody, but I thought I built a pretty good knife, and actually I sold a couple of knives while I was at the blade show.
Did you?
Yes, did. And then from there, I just relied on my word of mouth and what people looked at. Because the first thing a person's gonna stop, you've got a table there, you got some knives laid out on the table. Why should they stop at your table versus that guy's table? Well, they look real good. They look as good as this master smith over here, or this journeyman smith over here. As far as look at it, I always tell them, pick it up, handle it. And what most of them does, pick it up, and now first thing you see them start looking at it, and you let them just kind of look at it and kind of get the vision of it. What does it feel like? when they pick up the Bowie knife, they think, oh, that's going to be a big, heavy, clumpy thing. But it's not as heavy as you think it is. Of course, if it was out there straight,
yeah,
it would feel a
it would
lot
feel a
better.
little different.
It'd feel a little bit better.
But it's way lighter than what you think it's going to be.
It's gonna be lighter.
I mean, you look at it and go, man, it's a
Right.
thick handle. It's got a guard on it, and that's a lot of steel that I'm looking at. And you know, a mass-produced knife like this,
Well, some of it be
Yeah.
pretty thick and pretty
Yeah,
heavy.
pretty thick and pretty heavy.
But, you know, and then you just kind of engage them in conversation about this, that, and the other. And you have a lot of collectors there that they're looking for new people to add to the collection, but also somebody they think will progress.
yeah. They
Not
want
from here,
buy the stock low
Up
and
here.
sell it high. Yeah.
right, right. And you see they'll have some of the early knives. And I just built my reputation word of mouth. I handed out business cards, and that was it. I didn't advertise or do any big thing like that. And from their word of mouth, I started going to shows and have become. If you look at you type in my name on the internet, you'll come up.
Oh yeah. I did a little bit of research before I came. Jeff, I've asked a lot of questions. You want to throw one out there? Or?
No, just it might have been best asked about 30 minutes ago, but I'm not sure. You know, we're kind of going back and forth. You mentioned before about, you know, basically the forged blade, the ability to do it, kind of almost died out, and you had four men meet in Shreveport, I believe you said.
Yes.
Can you tell that story and kind of who they were and what they decided at that meeting?
I was going Bill Hughes and Bill Moran. I remember their names. There was two others. One of them died before I got into society, and I think he was from out here, and I'm Palestine, Texas, or Mount Pleasant, somewhere out there. And the other one was Vivian, Louisiana, and I remember his name. He's still around. He had some differences with ABS early on, and he got out. But that was 4 people that they knew a little bit about each other, but not much. And for some reason or other, Bill pulled them together, and like Bill Moran lived in Maryland, so he flew into Shreveport. That was a good place for them all to meet because, like I said, the other 2 could drive there, and of course Bill could drive from here. And he flew in, and they actually met in the cafeteria at that airport. And they just talked it over, and they thought, okay, why don't we see if we can get some people together, what we call a hammer-in now, somewhere, and see if we can get some other people that was wanting to do this, or maybe want to see this, or generate some enthusiasm about it. I know Bill talked about it, said they thought, well, they might get 20, maybe. Well, they got more than 20 the first time, and then they went out and probably talked to their friends or their neighbors or other people, and it just bloomed. It just bloomed to be where it's at now.
Wow.
And you're a master smith.
Master Smith, I'll back up a little bit of that. Like I say, at the time I made my Master Smith in 1995, they'd started doing that when they first started the association. And of course, Bill Moran, since he was one of them, he became a Master Smith. Jim Crow, my teacher, in the late 80s, become a Master Smith, and that's why some of them become Master Smiths. And when I become a Master Smith, you know, I told people, I said, gosh, I'm just a guy who works at a paper mill, just happen to make a few knives. He said, well, you're one of us now. And that just kind of, I thought, wow, one of them. That just kind of blew my mind, because at that time, there was less than 60 in the world that was accredited through the ABS to be a Master Smith.
And when you become a master smith, are you given a number?
No, I didn't get a number. You don't get a number.
Okay, I didn't know.
As a list, and I had a list. It was under 60.
Okay.
I'm not know where I'm at in that list, but now we have over 100. I don't remember how many there are now.
Yeah.
There's people. In fact, there's some people that went for their masters that failed it the first time they ever failed.
Yeah, I can
was
imagine.
lucky because I made mine in 4 years. 2 years, 4 years. Bam, I was there.
Yeah.
There were some good master smiths that got failed in their first time to take it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then
Yeah.
maybe the next year they took it and passed it.
Well, 'cause you and I were talking earlier about the different metal qualities,
Yeah.
and you just never know.
And
I mean-
they're looking for, when you get to master smith, they're looking for perfect work.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, because these are handmade, I don't have a jig. When I grind this blade to grind it where it's at, I don't have a jig. I go out there on the grinder and I grind it. It's all by eye. It's all by eye.
Wow.
It's all handmade. I don't have a set fixture. I've got what we call a knife maker's grinder. It runs a 2 by 72 inch belt.
Belt on it now.
You go up there and you grind. That's it.
Well, so you got all kinds of interest built up really quickly. Do you have a theory, or did y'all talk at all about how the interest or the knowledge dwindled down over the years?
Before they started this?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Like I say, back when 1800s, you went to the blacksmith to get you a knife made for free, or an axe or whatever. So they made cutting material. So they was there. It was plenty good, but just to have a custom-made knife, they become later on in life. I guess as we more industrial people, because we can go to Walmart and buy knives,
$5,
kitchen
$10,
or whatever. Yeah, whatever. I'll have to say that the big makers are making a better one, but also you can realize now you're paying more for them.
Yeah.
You go out. Used to we could buy a pocket knife, what, $5, $10.
If that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
If you didn't get
you
one
look
as
at
a
some
gift.
knives
Yeah.
that's out there that's pretty good looking. You're gonna get 40, 50, maybe more.
Yeah.
So it come more, but they are getting better. They're getting better. But the thing about Bill and his writings and all, and people never thought that you had somebody out there that's making a living or making a big dent in making knives and selling to people. And some of the early ones, that's the way they made their living.
Yeah.
Is they made knives.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a forged blade like you have here and something you'd go buy at Walmart?
Okay, well, the forged blade, and I meant to get into that a while ago, and we will in just a minute. A forged blade is I take a piece of steel, and it can be in most any shape, and when I forge it out, it'll look like a knife, or a Bowie knife or a hunting knife. It'll look like it. Now, there's what they call stock removal makers, and what they do is take a blank piece of steel, a bar of steel, and they grind away everything that doesn't look like a knife.
Right.
And people say, well, why do you forge a knife? And I tell people, and I've taught at that school several years. I said, you go by this big construction site, you see a big crane out there, and you see that hook on that crane? I said, go up there and turn it around and look at it real good, and somewhere on it, it'll have forged. Well, why is it forged? Steel has grain structure just like a board. If the grain structure's this way in that board, then it's very strong this way. But you take it this way, you can split it pretty easy, or you can break
Yeah.
the grain structure. So
Like
what you
piece
do
of wood.
is you forge this in, that grain structure and that blade in that steel, now it's forged down, and you pull the edge down, it's forged down this way. If you could look under it and etch it under a high pipe, then you could see that forging. And also it's my friend tells well, it's economy of metal too. The old blacksmiths, they took the old files, once it was wore out and couldn't do anything more, they forged them in a knife because it was good quality steel. So there you are, you could forge it in and make a knife out of it. Maybe you could cut it in half. If you wanted a small knife, you might make two out of it. Economy of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the big deal, as I got into it, these big collectors, they wanted Damascus knife. Because it is eye appealing.
It's pretty.
To look at it and to realize what it is and the pattern that's in it. And I mean, it's a mess. It's amazing, I guess, if you'll
Sure.
call it that. Fascinating.
Yeah. So what are some of the tools that are required to do? To forge or to do bladesmithing in general?
In general, the best couple things. I got an anvil. Had a little trouble finding an anvil.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Most people that have them don't want to get rid of them. Now that's kind of an old deal. Their grandfather, their father, or I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it. I was able to get somebody that had one. It was a small anvil, but it was a very serviceable anvil. I worked on it for years. But he was a farrier, and he wanted a horseshoe anvil, which is a little different shape and all. The forging anvils are a little bit different. There's all kinds of different anvils, but for my use, a regular forging anvil is what was good for me. So I was able to buy it from him. But an anvil, you have to have forged because you got to be able to heat the metal up. Set of hammers, some tongs, and pretty well you can go to work with it. Got to have tongs to handle your hot metal with, hammers to do what you wanted to do. Different sizes, different weights. Everybody has got their favorite hammer that they work good with.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So you had a favorite hammer?
Yeah, a big one, maybe two. I got a friend, he forged with I think it was 8 or 10 pound hammer. Well, that's a little heavier than I want to handle. 4 pound I can do pretty
4
good.
pounds,
4,
what you like.
6, yeah, I can do pretty good with that. But as you get it all and kind of like you want it to, then you go a lighter one. Maybe you do some finesse work on it with a smaller hammer.
Now, there's different kinds of forges too, aren't there?
Yeah.
What kind of forge did you use?
I started out in a cold forge, and with a hand blower.
Okay.
That's what really makes the coal
The
get hotter and hotter.
airflow going through it.
But then I graduated into it because around here it was hard to get coal and good quality coal. So I went to, I read in Blade magazine these people that was going to propane forge. So excuse me, I contacted a fellow that I'd seen wrote an article in Blade magazine, and he said that he would work with me, and I bought. He actually casted the forge because you don't need nothing that's huge. So mine was about this big around, about this long. I was able to put a pretty good sized knife in it, and so the casting would get hot, and he told me, he said, well, I'll be able to burn or whatever. Well, I had capability of doing all that, so he casted the forge, the castable for me, and I built the rest of it. And of course I had a blower, electric blower. You don't have to do this no more.
Yeah.
And I went to propane. Well, we can get propane
Pretty easily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easily. And a coal forge get hotter, but now a propane forge will do very good. Because to be able to forge Damascus, it's got to be up around 2,600 degrees.
Wow.
You get these two metals, and what you're doing, you're not melting them. You're getting them hot enough that when you put them together, and if you could reach in there and actually press them real hard, they would stick. It's like taking two welding rods. You get them hot enough and you put them together in the end and start pushing on them, they will weld themselves together. So you have to have that hot enough, not to melt. You're not gonna melt it.
No.
But you have to have these layers of steel that will stick together. If the molecules are moving around in it, goes back to metal layers around it, and they will marry together.
All right.
And they got to be hot enough to do that, and to be able to withstand, because you're going to, as you weld that first weld together, then you're going to cut it in two and fold it back on itself. Well, if not, it's going to delaminate.
Yeah.
Them layers will start coming apart. So it's, and two, you will, as you're hammering on it, you'll hammer it and it's getting wider this way and longer this way. Well, sometimes you want to hammer it this way. So the layers laying in there like this. So as you hit it like this, if they're not stuck together very good, they're going to come apart.
Yeah,
They're going to come apart. It's going to fail. So that's where that kind
I think the only real experience I have with it is watching Forged in Fire, which you and I were talking about. Watching those guys work,
Yeah.
getting that stuff done.
And it's hot. I've told a lot of the students that I had, first thing I brought them in class, and I said, I'm glad you're here. To make what you want to make and do what you want to do, work hard, be good at it, diligent. But I said, if you can't take the heat hot, dirty, nasty, and you think you're gonna make a zillion dollars, I said, hurry up and get out of here and go get you a job. I said, get away from it, because it is hot, dirty, and nasty. First of all, like I say, I've stood out there in 100-degree weathers, and my little shop is now all torn down. When it'd be 100 degrees out there and facing that 2,400-degree forge blowing in your face, it's not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fun. You have to be committed to it.
Yeah. So what's one of your favorite memories you have of bladesmithing? Either in the shop or just through people that you've met?
I enjoyed the people.
Yeah.
That wasn't really my thing. Yes, I had to make money at it because I spent a lot of money at it. But I enjoyed. I met a lot of famous people,
Yeah.
well-off people, and things like this. It's just like this right here.
So who do we have in the picture? For
All right, this
everybody?
right here. Now I wasn't there for that, but George Bush, when he was running for president, the Bowie #1 that went to the Alamo, it was in Little Rock, and I'll tell you a story about all that, why we was able to do that. He landed in Little Rock and done a press conference, and I wasn't able to be there because he was there for a short period of time. Anyway, that's Bowie #1 that went to the Alamo.
I think we got Mike Huckabee, and
Mike Huckabee,
he presented
yes,
it
he
to.
presented. He was governor of Arkansas, and I got to meet with Mike Huckabee a couple times over the years. And in fact, this picture here, yes, our official museum is the museum in Little Rock. It used to be Arkansas Territorial Restoration Museum. Now it's Historic Arkansas Museum. That's the official ABS museum. I have a knife area in the museum.
Okay.
And other mastersmiths have knives. So if you go in there, you can get to see lots of different ones. Anyway, they cured the story about Bowie #1. They bought it at an auction. I don't know, sometime early 90s. Bowie #1. We don't know what Bowie that he carried to the Alamo and died with. We don't know. But this is one that is very high on the list. For one reason, Bowie and his brother Resin had land dealings all in this area, all the way up to Fort Smith and down into Texas, which at that time was Mexico. This knife was built, and all experts agree, was built by a blacksmith in Old Washington, Arkansas, by the name of Black.
Okay.
And they agree because they have a knife that is in a museum in northern Arkansas, and I don't forget what little town that is. I've been there. That is a smaller version of this, and they have paperwork. They can trace it back
all the way back
to
Old Washington.
Black.
Okay.
But if you look at it, it's just a small version of this knife.
And let's go back just a little bit for anybody not knowing here. When you talk about Black, you're talking about James Black
James Black.
in Old Washington, Arkansas, and he had a blacksmith shop there,
Right.
correct?
Right.
And some guy came to him and asked him to make a knife.
Right.
And that guy's
Bowie.
name was Bowie,
Jim Bowie.
and he made a knife for him.
Right.
And that knife was the Bowie knife.
The Bowie #1.
Okay.
There's different stories about he kind of modified it and done it a little bit. Maybe from Bowie, I think he drew the picture of the story. I got Bowie draw the picture of the way he wanted to build. He done a little modified, but basically it was like they wanted. A lot of people say, well, he was just a blacksmith because all this that you see here is silver. There's fine silver on him. Said he couldn't have made it. He apprenticed when he's early. He was a silversmith.
Okay.
I never forgot the town. It was in Philadelphia, Boston, or somewhere early in his life. But then he moved to the frontier to do blacksmith work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where he made his living. At that time, this part of the United States was the frontier.
Yeah, they cared more about blacksmith work than
You
they did
didn't,
silver.
you
Sure.
didn't do silver work. So, but he was capable of doing silver work, and that's the knife that he made for Bowie. And you see on here, it was engraved Bowie #1.
Bowie #1. Yeah.
Bowie #1. So that's the knife he made for them. And that's the one,
And so this is what you're holding in your hand is
a copy of that.
a copy, and now the first one you have one exactly like this at the Alamo.
Right, through the museum, because they had the original one. We was, they,
And is that the same knife that's been shown in the pictures here, or the one that's in the Alamo?
this is the one that's in Alamo.
Yes, sir.
And then Jeffrey bought this one. They come to all the blades, the Master Smith that was in Arkansas at that time, which was 6 or 8 of us. I'll have to go back and count. But anyway, said we would like for y'all to meet up here, look at it, and they wanted to build, all of us to build one as a fundraiser, because that was our official museum, to have money to build the annex onto the museum. We will get some of the money, yes, but it was a fundraiser there to sell to collectors. And they wanted to keep it down to not just flood the market with a bunch of these. They said 2, I agreed to make 2. And that's only 2 I've ever made. And you'll notice on this one that it's marked Arkansas
Number 2.
Territory.
Yeah.
At that time, like I said, it was Arkansas
ATR,
Territorial
yeah.
Restoration Museum number 2.
Yeah.
Well, the one in Alamo is ATR 1.
Okay. Now, how did that one end up at the Alamo?
Okay, when we got all finished, the ones that had finished them, they turned them into the museum. They wrote us a letter, I don't know, this 6 months, maybe a year, I don't know, it wasn't real long way later, said by the time, because at that time, somewhere or another, the museum in San Antonio wanted one. Alamo wanted one.
From the Arkansas
Yeah,
Museum.
since they had the original and they knew that this was going on. I don't know who
And
contacted.
so the one at the Alamo, and I'm asking a lot of questions, sorry.
Okay.
Because I'm really am interested in it. But the one that they have Bowie Knife number 1 that was found that's accredited to Jim Black.
Right, they have the original.
They have that one.
If you go to
Yeah.
the museum in Little Rock, which is now the Historic Arkansas Museum, it's on display.
Okay, so that one's in Little Rock.
It's in Little Rock.
But the Alamo wanted either
One to
okay.
go to their museum.
Okay.
And they contacted all of us by letter and said, by the time this date, whoever turned in one in, we're gonna pick one to go to the Alamo.
Okay. Okay.
So that day come and went, and they emailed me and or called me, I never forgot, and said yours was picked
Yours was picked.
to go to the Alamo, which was a great, big deal for me.
Yeah.
I was told later on by the curator, several months later, I was either there or at a show or something, he come to me and said, just wanted you to know, the ones that was picked, what they done, they went in there and the board of directors, the curator didn't have anything to do with it. They took the board of directors, they said, go in there, they all laid on the table and pick one. They come out and said, this is it.
And now, were those board of directors, were those from the Arkansas Museum or the Alamo Museum?
Arkansas Museum.
Arkansas Museum.
Arkansas
So the Arkansas Museum board of directors picked one
Picked
to
one,
send
yeah,
to answer to the Alamo's call or
Yeah,
request
yeah,
to
yeah.
have one sent.
But they said that, he told me, he said it was a unanimous decision.
Wow.
Because there's some subtleties of these knives. You see where this clip is over
Mhm.
here? You see how it's rolled
Yes,
over
sir.
here?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them,
Would-
because that's way, if I built a Bowie knife, these are not clipped on it. It would be a sharp edge down to
Mm-hmm.
there. But the original Bowie wasn't like that. It's kind of rolled over.
And then now, is that an element of using a hammer, or is that an element of using a sander or grinder?
Yeah, yeah. Because at that time, they didn't have the grinder.
Yeah, they didn't
We
have
got
grinder,
no
yeah.
such thing. They had probably sandpaper or files.
Yeah.
Files. Maybe some homemade sandpaper.
Yeah, leather strap or something. Yeah.
Yeah. With some
With polish,
grit
yeah.
into it,
Mhm.
and they didn't make a sharp edge.
Yeah.
But I've got the copies of Bowie No. 1 from there. The pictures are in there, and actually a Xerox copy. And you can lay mine on that Xerox copy. Other than we took the blade wear, it's got a little blade wear in the middle of it. Not a lot. But if you can lay mine right on top of that copy, it fits it exactly.
Wow.
I said, if he missed these pins, I missed them. Because my pins are in the same location his pins are in. This file work that's on the back and on the bottom is actually done on the tang, and it's overlaid with this silver that's about this thick. It's not very thick.
Now, where did you learn to do silver work at?
I didn't go to anybody.
You
I
didn't
just
go- you just figured it
dumb
out.
boy and figured it out.
Wow.
But I file work this. If you count the file work on the picture, there's the same amount of file work on the top and the bottom exactly as is on the original one. These handles are oak, black walnut, and they come out of Old Western Arkansas. They come out of a tree in
Really?
Old Arkansas. Yeah. These pins are in here. They look like a big-headed pin.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the original pictures, you'll notice that it's got a little halo. There's a little pin. It's a small pin through there, and it's a scutcheon that's fit down on there, and then you pin that pin, which holds the handle down. But it looks like a big-headed pin.
No. Yeah. I mean, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. But they
Really,
actually are.
really neat.
But actually, it's a small pin
Yeah,
with that
with it.
scutcheon.
Yeah.
And then once you pin it down,
It all flattens out, and then you can.
and then you polish over it, it looks
Yeah.
like a big-headed pin.
Wow.
And they had an engraver come in there and engrave it, and that's exactly the way it is original Bowie #1. It looks, when you see the engraving on there, it looks exactly like that.
It's incredible.
And I had a discussion with a fellow one time, and he built a Bowie #1, and you see the way this wraps around the
Mhm.
front and goes back under there. He said, no, it goes down, comes across here, and actually goes out here on the blade. And I said, no. I said, I've got the original. I said, I can show you a picture of it. It's not. It goes around and comes back under that scale. And then, of course, it's got two pins that holds it in there. So there's a lot of little subtleties that a lot of people, and I've seen some copies of it, that's all right, but they missed it, and he missed it. He brought that silver, went down, and it come out on the blade. Because in the picture that he was looking at, that's the way it looks, but that's not the way it was. And like I say, the silver is actually overlaid on the tank
Wow.
and soldered on there. I spent probably the better part, probably 12 or 14 hours one day to get this silver laid on and soldered on there like I wanted, because as you see the line here,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one down here.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. But I wanted it perfect.
Yep. I think
And
you
that's
achieved
what
that.
it took me to get that silver on.
How long did it take you to make? I mean, you said you don't keep track
I
of time.
didn't keep up because I've done it different
Yeah.
times, but the real work of this blade is here.
Here down.
Is a half. Because wrapping the silver and getting it, see it's inlaid, it's not laid up on top where it's, and the one on the front is proud.
Mm-hmm.
This on the back is not proud, it's laid in. Okay, if you just look at it and just kind of casually look at it,
You don't.
you don't
notice it,
see
yeah.
them subtle,
Oh yeah, no.
features
I'm
of
picking
it.
up all kinds of stuff now.
but that's the subtle features of it.
Right.
Jeffrey, you got any questions? It's your knife.
You know,
But it was a good project. I was
Well,
proud
hold on,
of.
don't put it away yet.
Okay.
I don't know if we're done
All right.
talking about it.
All right,
I want to
all right, let's lay it down there.
Yeah, I want to.
If you allow me, I'll let me get them pictures and
Okay.
and we'll flash them right quick. There's original Bowie. There's a picture of it.
Wow.
and that's the
This-
one in Little Rock, correct?
Right, that's original.
Yeah, I can see all the details you were telling
Yeah.
me earlier about the.
Now here's another one, and I'll kind of explain this to you right quick. You'll notice the Bowie #1 here
Mm-hmm.
is in,
And the engravings are exactly
Yeah.
the same. Yeah.
but now this is in, look at it, it's pointing down. This
Mhm.
one is pointing up.
Yeah.
It's upside down.
They do that on purpose.
We think maybe, you see they're not in pins there, maybe over the years,
Oh, maybe it came off
it
and then.
fell off, and somebody just put it back in there, because why would they put it
Yeah,
upside
why
down?
would they put it upside down to begin with?
So we all decided, and they decided too, said, we think it's upside down, we'll put it right side up.
Yeah.
So that's what was done, and all of them was right side up. But as you look at these, and of course these was, you count these, you
It's
count
the
mine,
exact
it's
same.
exactly the same. But that's what the deal was. We was able to handle the original one. I carried some micrometers and I mic'd the thing. I mean, I took, and my original prints are in here. And actually, everybody that made a print of it, I got their copies. So I went between their copies and my copies to make the thickness, where everything was, and how it was, and the size of it, and everything.
And what year was this done in?
This was, and I have to look back here, 95.
95.
Because evidently I just didn't make my master's myth because I made it in 95. So
Yeah, so this was the one of the first knives after you made your master's.
pretty
smith.
close, pretty close.
Yeah.
That it was made in there.
That's incredible.
And when you say you made this knife, you talking about the one in the Alamo
Yeah.
or this one right
I made the one in Alamo first and
Right.
got it finished.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, I agreed to make two, and I was kind of in the
Is that a
deal.
limit they put on you? They said you
Yes.
can only make one
Yeah,
more?
we signed an agreement to make only two. If I made another one, I'd have to go to them and get them to say,
Yeah.
okay, it's okay. But I didn't want to, because like I say, the idea of the thing was, and even for me as a maker, is leave it at two.
Yeah.
And whoever has them, the price of them is gonna go this
Yeah.
way.
No.
The Alamo's got the one,
No.
Jeffery has
Now,
it.
what was the what's the time difference in between the one that you made for the museum and then the Alamo and then this one? How many years
I think
passed?
it wasn't much later. I started work on it, but after the first one, because I went ahead and I got it done because I was getting my name out, and I was making, and I had a lot of orders, so, and going to the shows and what have you, I needed to get it in their hands and get it off my mind and
Yeah.
start.
I was going to ask you
fulfilling my orders.
with the details that the a guy like me that you were just running through, and now I see even more and more of how detailed this knife is. Are there any differences that a master smith like you look at and go, okay, this one's a little bit different than maybe the one? Because I'm just thinking, if I had made one with the amount of detail that you're talking about, and then any amount of time passed,
I think if you laid both of them together,
it looked pretty similar.
the only thing probably you would see difference is maybe the color of the handle. Because every wood is gonna patina differently.
No.
It'll be unique.
Maybe one's a little darker than the other.
Did you have to go back to Old Washington to get some more wood? You had plenty.
They already gave me-
You were already
yeah.
thinking,
I was
okay, I've
good.
got one
I
more of
was
these
good.
to make.
But now I was real careful with them because I didn't want to bust a pair and then try to find
Mm-hmm.
the guy that actually cut the tree down and find the one that was all right. So they come. This pair and the other pair was pretty close together.
Okay.
Other than maybe one is a little.
No.
I think if you laid them side by side, I don't think you.
Now,
could tell
who
the difference.
did you have the same guy engrave Bowie #1
Yes,
on it that engraved
yes,
the one that's in the museum?
Fella, he was engraver Billy Bates.
Okay, where's he from?
I don't remember. I don't remember where he was from, but they sent him to him, and he.
Oh, so they sent them both at the same
well,
time.
yeah.
Okay.
I think the first one they went ahead and sent them, and then when I got the other one finished, I turned it in, or had them send it to them. Of course, I didn't turn it in to them. By that time, Jeffrey and me had made a deal to go ahead, and he wanted it, and I think I might have sent it to him.
The way I remember the detail, I think I was over here. I remember in this house and on Union Road for the for the people watching. And I remember you showing me like these pictures, and you and Billy Faye were talking about it and all that, and you mentioned having one. So I think the one was already made and given to the state of Texas. I mean,
Already went
within the
down.
last 6 months or something. I mean, it was very close to being done, and I went ahead and pulled the trigger and said, "Hey, I want, I'll take that thing."
Probably right. And then later on, I probably started on it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly the time period or what have you. But there's the original Xerox copy of Bowie No. 1.
Wow.
And if you lay that one on top, you see where we drawed and the blade wear was here.
I'll hold down here away
If
from
you
the
draw,
Sharpie.
if you lay it on here and kind of get right on top of it, it's there.
Wow. I mean, the level of detail that is evident when you were doing your planning for this. It's incredible.
Yeah. But that's it. Like I said, we just took the blade wear out, and of course the tip is a little dull, and so we went ahead and made it sharp tip.
Yeah. Did you see some of the other ones that were submitted?
I seen a couple of them, yes, and they ground their clip, and that's what I guess I'm a stickler for details like that. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But they ground it like, if I made a Bowie knife then and made a bunch of them since then, this line right down through here would be sharp.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be definite. Instead of
and that's what I was getting at. Not to say that the other ones weren't.
No.
Right, but the level, what you're talking, taking a micrometer and doing some of these things. I mean, it's evident that when you started this,
Well, I wanted to be as close, and I've done a lot of reproductions of some old Bowies, and that was my deal. Is if I've done a reproduction for somebody, or I've done some spec reproduction, is I just wanted them to be as perfect as I can get them.
Yeah.
Whatever it be. I got a picture in there of a knife that I built for a customer here in Texarkana. And he had a book, and he was going through it, and he contacted me and said, I'm torn between this one and this one. And of course, I've got the book in there. And I said, well, I'll make either one. It's your choice. But I said, my preference, if I was going to make one, I think this one is the one to make. It's kind of unique in the way it looks and all. And he's done deal. So that's what I made. And if you allow me, I'll just show you, I think this picture right here.
What do you think?
Neat, isn't it?
Yeah, real good.
I mean, I can't draw a straight line, much less.
I think it's what they call a Reinhardt Bowie.
Okay.
It's not the greatest picture, but
and you made that one?
yes, for him. It's unique in the way the handle is. It's kind of got a ball on the end, and you think, well, it's kind of long. I took the picture and I Xeroxed it because it told how long the blade was. So I took a Xerox machine, Xeroxed it till the blade got the length that it says it is. Well, the handle looks like it's that long. I said, wow, okay. So I ground out a piece of pine 2x4 to the shape of that handle and got it as close to it as I can. And I understand why it's got a big ball on the end. It feels good in your hand. But what's unique about it, the discussion that's in it, but all this is checkered. You can't tell in the picture, but it's all checkered. You've seen gun stocks that are checkered.
Yeah.
So I had to buy a checker this handle. Well, how do I checker across and put this inlay in there? How do I cut that inlay out? So being kind of like I was, I cut the inlay and put it in there. Got it to fit my silver inlay, and I got it out. Then I cut me a popsicle stick to that inlay and put it in there, and that way I could checker across the popsicle stick. And I checkered it because there was one on one side and one on the other side. And then pulled the popsicle stick out, put my inlay in there, and it's perfect checker right up to the inlay. It's not chipped off. And
that's incredible.
that was a unique. But then I had my checking tools.
I mean, it sounds like it's just it's probably constant problem solving.
It is. It is. Problem solving and
Curiosity. How can I figure this out?
Figure out how you do this, how you do that. Especially if you're just making the same knife over and over, you kind of figure that out.
Mhm.
But people say, well, how long? Same thing, we'll go back to it. How long does it take to make a knife? I don't know, I don't keep up with it.
No.
I don't count the hours. I said, this knife may take, let's say 40 hours. I may make the same knife, and I make it again. This may take me 50 hours because I'm not going to let it go until it's satisfying me,
Yeah.
till it's perfect for me. I don't care what the hours are. I worked at the paper mill to feed my family and make a living.
No.
Yes, I had to make money at these shows to go, because to go to the blade show before I quit, and I finally quit in 2015. My table, go out there and spend 3 days or whatever, and the cost of it was over $1,500. So I had to clear over $1,500 to make money.
Yeah.
I was very lucky in my career. I only went to 2 shows, one in Little Rock and one in Blade Show, that I didn't make enough money to pay the bills.
Really.
But I didn't have to pay the bills.
So it sounds like it really just, I mean, you made enough money to pay for your hobby is something you really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
enjoyed.
And like I say, I had to make money up because it's
Yeah.
been a lot. And then I turned the money back into my career,
Yeah.
my shop. Instead of hammering out by hand, I bought I eventually ended up with an air hammer.
Did you? Okay.
And that's what, I could speed up my work.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wear myself out doing that stuff. I
Now,
bought
did
an air
you get the air hammer first or the propane forge first?
Actually, the propane forge.
Propane forge came first.
Propane came first. And I actually bought a mechanical hammer. Very fortunate, about a year I got into this, and I found through a guy that I knew through the gun club. And I called him, I said, I heard your brother's got one of these old mechanical hammers. He said, yeah, I think he does, but said, well, do you mind if I just call him? He didn't live here, he lived above New Boston. So I called him, and he said, well, yeah, I got one, but I don't want to sell it. And I said, oh, okay. But I talked him in and let me just come look at it.
Yeah.
So I went up there, I said, okay, let me just go look. So I went and looked. He wasn't used to it. It was over behind a bunch of equipment that he had. It hadn't run in years. He bought it years before. It's one of them guys that, you go buy ammo and I don't want to sell it. He's not using it.
Yeah.
He's not ever going to use it, but he don't want to sell it. And I just kept on and talked to him. I said, Dom, I'd really like to buy it, or you find somebody. I'm not going to resell it. I'm not here to buy, give you X number of dollars and then sell it for X plus $2 more. I said, I told him what I was doing, what I wanted to do, and I needed it and I wanted it. And he finally told me, he said, okay, here's the price, but if you don't buy it, don't tell anybody about it.
Mm.
I said, I agreed to it. I said, well, let me go home because I'm gonna have to pull this out of the home budget.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm not well enough known to pay for this thing.
Yeah.
So I come home, we talked it over, and then wife said, yeah, if you want it, we'll pull it out of the household budget, and we bought it. All right, I bought it. And I didn't tell anybody else about it. In fact, I didn't sell it. I had that hammer for 25 years.
Wow.
And I used it before I bought that air hammer, and then
Did it work when you plugged it in?
oh yeah, I had to put some bushings in it and do a little work on it, but yes, overall it worked fine.
Now, where do you think he got it from?
I don't know. He was a collector of different oddities.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of collecting of different stuff. It was mind blowing.
Because there's not a whole lot of those running around, are there? Or at least
They're
kinda-
they're hard to find.
Yeah.
Like I say, I talked to a lot of friends I had at that time in the business, and they said they couldn't just run out and find one.
Yeah.
Now, if you went to a part of the country that had a lot
Like
of
a-
blacksmiths
yeah.
maybe on the East Coast or
Yeah.
something like that, you could probably find
a lot of
quicker.
steel work.
Yeah, steel work.
Yeah.
But around here, it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Wasn't there. But I was looking. That was my workhorse for a lot of years. It was 25 pound, what's called a little giant. It's like you could take a 25 pound hammer and hammer at 25 pounds.
Just with the push with a
Yeah.
foot
Yeah,
pedal.
it's mechanical. So as you, the harder you pressed it, the faster it would hit.
Yeah.
But it would hit it at about 25 pounds.
Wow.
So I could make Damascus you can make Damascus without a hammer. I mean, if I was out here and had enough forge, we could go out there and heat up a piece of hammer with a 4-pound hammer. In fact, I taught a Damascus course up there, and we actually forge welded them together with a 4-pound hammer.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Like I
take
say,
time.
you get it hot enough and you
Yeah.
get it close enough together, you don't have to hit it hard. All you got to do is to make it push
Let the
together.
metal take the rest of the.
Yeah, if you could actually go in there and maybe have your hands almost could push it together.
Wow.
Yeah, and they was smooth enough to where they was touching each other all the way up and down. They would stick, but you wouldn't have to hit it hard.
I got a couple
Yeah.
of questions.
Yeah, go for it,
Follow-up
Jeffrey.
questions. You know, and how was the decision made to put the school in Old Washington? Do you know?
Okay, Bill Hughes was with Dean of Students, Texarkana College. Went to the college. They thought about, well, they got enough at these hammer-ins, which they had the hammer-in at Old Washington, because that was the old blacksmith shop up there. That's where they had the first ones. Said, well, we're getting a lot of people. Said, why don't we start a school? And he went to the board of directors at the college, and they agreed to kind of finance a little bit of it, because they had to put in some forges, had to have some grinders, forges. They bought an old mechanical hammer, put up there, and they just kind of built it like that. But through the association with the college, that's what they've done. They have now moved it from Old Washington to actually out here at college.
Mm-hmm.
Which they talked about it years and years ago, because it would be more convenient here. There's more places because people come in. They come in
go
to the
hotels,
airport.
yeah.
So keep from them going up there, and there was limited places for them to stay in Old Washington, and you had to go into maybe get a hotel room or something like that. There was at one time always not a boarding house, but kind of like that they could stay in. You know, if you were real cheap-minded or you didn't have a lot of money, you could stay there fairly cheap. You know, maybe they'd be 3-4 in a room.
Sure.
But anyway, and that's kind of way it come about. But they kind of done a little financing and helped them out with it, and they built the forges and procured that building, I guess, from the society up there. And of course, some of the people, the old people in the town, the forefathers or whatever they are, really liked that idea, so they kind of bought into it too. There you had the old blacksmith shop, which is still there.
No.
It's a draw for them, and to have this school was actually just a plus. So they fell in with it to do that.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you this: have you ever been down to the Alamo to see your knife on display?
Yes, I've been there twice.
Okay.
Not long after we went down there. I carried my daddy, which was still living, and her daddy, and then we went later on. Sherry wanted to go, my daughter wanted to go, and we went down there. We was given a personal tour by the curator, which was kind of neat, because at that time they was going to expand the Alamo, because Alamo is not just a building,
No.
it's the grounds. And they was going to take in part of the old part, actually I think was laying in the street. So that's what they done. Now my knife was not in, there's what they call
Long barracks.
barracks. It's not in there, it's in the gift shop, because they only want to put things that was in there that's original artifacts, which mine is not original artifacts, so they put it in the gift shop. And I had
What's the
people,
price tag they have on it?
it doesn't have, doesn't have
I'm
price
just
tag.
teasing.
I understand. But no, it don't. And I had people go down there, and some of them seen it, and I had some people say, well, I've not seen it, but they was redoing a bunch of it, and I think they took it off display, and then they put it back. And I don't know, here a couple years ago, somebody, my daughter knew that had been down there and took a picture of it, so it was there. It was there. But at one time, it actually had, I think, this picture with it.
Okay.
But they have actually took that picture away. It's not with it. It tells, my name and all. That's all was there.
Who was the curator that gave you the tour?
I don't remember his name. I got his card somewhere, but that's been so many years ago. I don't remember.
I was going to ask you for a cell phone number. Just
Yeah.
Okay.
And
He may be retired by now.
it may be because that's been well. Like I say, it went down there when we built it in '95, and when they sent that, I think it's 2000.
So were you're pointing to the flag?
The flag and Daughters of the Republic of Texas sent me that inscription, and I think it's dated 2000.
Okay. And it's got a flag that flew over the Alamo.
Yes, it says that the flag flew over the Alamo in your honor.
Yeah.
On account of
That's
that
really
reason.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, that was real cool. Kind of the backstory of that, I come home one day, and my wife said, "You got some stuff to come in?" I said, "Well, I don't have anything ordered that I know of." And so I opened it up. I think it was a FedEx package, and I opened it up, and that flag and that deal was in there.
That's something to really be proud of.
It kind of blew me away because I had no idea.
Really?
That was unexpected.
Yeah.
Unexpected. And I immediately called Bill Hughes because he's such a historian, and he'd been to Alamo so much till, like I say, he's been there more probably than anybody in the whole world to the Alamo. He's been down there hundreds of times, and I had to call and tell him. And I said, "Here's what I got in there." He said, "Wow, is that right?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I got. I got a certificate. I carried it over and showed it to him one time." It's kind of neat. Real neat. Like I say, I was kind of blown away because as I tell people, I used to have people come to my table after I got well known. Mr. Massey, Mr. Massey, I'm so glad to meet you. Like I was a movie star or something. And I said, "Man, I'm just a guy that happens to make knives. Yeah, I got a good little name here, but I said I work at the paper. I'm just a working hand."
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why they like you so
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
But I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed meeting them, talking to them. I had a lot of people that walked away. They just want to talk to me and never bought a knife. That's all right. I'm not with it. And I've had a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh no." I said, "Well, no, if you don't feel like it, you can buy it." Or I said, "I want you to buy, if you buy one of my knives, you know you have buyer's remorse. You ever done that?
Oh yeah.
You
Yes, sir.
get home and think, "Oh, I wish I hadn't give that kind of money." I don't know for. I said, if you buy it, I want you to go home and say, "I'm glad I bought it."
Yeah.
A year goes by, you look at it and say, "I'm glad I bought it." If you can't do that and you go home and say, "Man, I wish I hadn't paid that much," and got, I said, "Really, don't buy it.
No.
Don't buy it. Go buy you something that you really like or cheaper or whatever." I said, "I want you to really like it enough that you, like I said, 5, 6 months, a year from now, I'm glad I bought it."
Yeah.
You mentioned all these people you've talked to, and obviously you've been to the Alamo and got a personal tour and all this stuff. Have you done any more traveling as a result of your knife making and being able to?
We was able to go to France. A good friend of mine, actually, he's a knife maker. They lived in Kentucky, and they would go over every year. She taught French at the local college, I guess, and she would take some students over, I guess, for their whatever, and to France, and they would spend a week or two over there, and they kept going back and forth, and so they bought a house. Now we call it a house in a little village. I can tell you how little it is. Me and Billy walked around in about 45 minutes. It's very small. And if you, I say a house, it's actually just kind of 100 years ago or 150 years ago, you kind of drive down like we call it an alleyway. And this building's there, and they're just kind of like separated off. And they kind of own the end to it. And probably 100, 150 years ago, they put their horses and their cows and everything in the bottom, and they slept upstairs because they had upstairs. And then we'd been talking to them about we'd always wanted to go overseas for some reason, just different. I never had been anywhere else. And they kept saying, "Well, come." So we made and was able to get away and go one year after the blade show, because they'd always go in summer after the blade show, and they'd spend pretty well all summer, and they knew a lot of people over there. He actually kind of helped them start the bladesmithing in France, and actually started their organization in France. He helped them organize and kind of get going, so he'd been over lots of years doing that, and we was able to stay with them for a week, and then we went and got on one of the fast trains. Ever been on a fast train? Oh, that thing traveled fast. Went back into Paris, because that was, it's about 2.5 hours south of Paris. Coucy is the name of the little village, I call it a village. We went to, and it didn't take long to get back into Paris, and we procured a hotel. She told me where to get a nice hotel, old, but it's down. We could walk to the Louvre, what is the church that burnt down?
Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Notre Dame. Notre Dame was just across the river. We walked over. I mean, it's about like walking from here out to what's the name shop out there.
Really?
And we actually could have walked to the Eiffel Tower. It was a little ways down there, but we got they had red bus tours, and you can buy a 2 day. Well, I bought a 2-day pass. You can get on and off all the popular spots to go, and went up on the Eiffel Tower and toured it for a week and come home. But that's great. But that allowed me to go over there with him, with my association through that.
Right.
And like I say, I got to meet a lot of influential people. So I met with Huckabee when he was governor twice. Went up there, and that's where I got this sign. I wanted to get Bush to sign that picture, but I couldn't get connections, because I wanted to be there when he signed it. I didn't want to just give it to somebody and they go in there and the secretary sign. No.
Right.
I want to be there, and I want to watch him sign it.
Yeah.
So never could hook that up.
Yeah. Well, there's still time.
Yeah, it's still time. I mean, I think he's got an office in Dallas, Fort Worth,
Yeah.
somewhere down
There's
there.
presidential libraries over there. You
Yeah.
might be able to.
It's,
Hey,
yeah.
when's he swinging by?
Yeah, and swing by and get it signed. But
I've been to that library, it's neat.
Okay. But a lot of influential people, got good friends with a lot of people that bought some knives from me and just become real good friends. Just like I say, I enjoyed the people.
Yeah.
I enjoyed people. Enjoyed talking to them, being around them. And of course, our friends, even though we might not see them but once or twice a year, we all become good friends. Just a good camaraderie together.
Probably gonna see a lot of them tonight.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of there. Yeah, some will come in for them, some won't. Some live so far away to that's the only time but it's go to the big show. That's when they come.
That's another question. You keep mentioning the knife show, or is there one knife show, or are there multiple knife shows? Or, where are those held?
There's multiple knife shows over the United States. The biggest one that I started getting going to is put on the Blade magazine. You go to the newsstand, you pull out Blade. That's who put it on. And I started going to the Blade show right after I got in knife making, about the first year. Nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof, hoping my stuff looked good enough somebody would even look at it, but it was. And done that show for 25, I think, right at 25 years.
Where's that located?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Georgia.
And the reason they put it in Atlanta, it used to be at Knoxville. The year that I went, they had moved to Atlanta, because you have so many customers comes in all over the world. So it has to be at a hub.
Yeah, Atlanta's a good one.
To be able to come in there where they wouldn't have to travel further.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been actually it's in Marietta, which is a suburb of Atlanta, Marietta, Georgia. And they had a big hotel there, and that's where it was at. And actually part of the Olympics there, once the Olympics, 90 some odd, part of the Olympics was in there. They built a big facility back here, and we that's where the show was. But before then, it was on the second floor where the ballroom and all that was. It's about 3 big rooms, and they took all that up. Because you had custom makers, you had knife purveyors, people, collectibles, factory knives, and what have you. So they was all there. Now they was all in one big room. After the Olympics, whatever year that was, which made it real nice.
94? was it?
It's 90 some odd. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but we done that show, and it was probably because that's where you go to get international customers.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell a story about probably not maybe the first one, but pretty close to the first one. A guy come and I'd been away from the table. I don't know if I was buying supplies or seeing about something, and I got back. My wife said, "That guy right there, he had just left." Said he was looking at this knife, and I said, "Okay." And so I went down and tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Sir, I'm told him who it was." I said, "My wife said you want to know about it." I said, "I'll be glad to talk to him." So I went back up there and talked to him quite a bit about it, and he actually bought the knife, but he was from Brazil. Brazil. And I was, like I say, I'm curious about people. I said, are you over here for business, or did you come strictly to the knife show, or, why do you come all the way from Brazil?
Yeah.
What brings you to Atlanta, Georgia? He said, well, he's come from the knife show. He's come knife factory. He said he'd been in the States before to this big ranch down here in Texas, the King Ranch.
Oh, really?
I said, he's evidently had cattle,
Yeah.
or maybe he was a big rancher. I didn't get him specific. Anyway, he said he'd been in there for that, and he said he kind of collected knives. And over the years, I talked to him every year, and great guy. Great guy.
Well, now you mentioned something there that I know means a lot to you. It sounds like you had some help along the way with your while you were able doing all the shows and going and meeting people. It sounded like there was a really strong influence.
It
was
is
in the
like I say,
background with your wife.
You kind of get somebody and like I say, the first show I went to, nobody knew me.
No.
I had Jim.
Well,
Crow.
what I was talking about was, it sounds like your wife was somebody you
Oh,
could
yeah,
depend on
yeah.
throughout this whole process.
She
I've
was-
read a few things that she was a real. She was always there behind you helping.
She was in the background all the time.
Yeah.
Like I say, I worked full time at the paper mill, and people call here during the day. Well, she was my answering service, and I educated her a lot about knives. And somebody comes up there and start asking about, this is what the material is and what it's made of and what it is. And, she had to know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
So I educated her as much as she could to be able to talk to the customers, and they expected her to be there. I mean, I had friends and customers that when they come, they wanted to see as much of her as they did me. So it was a good, relationship that we could do that. Fortunately, when I shot at the gun club in the shop, well, she didn't involved in that, so she was kind of an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Now I brought her in there, and she was part of it.
Yeah.
Now she didn't work on them, she didn't do that, and she helped me write letters and do that part of it. In fact, at one time when the Arkansas Knife Makers Association, which they disbanded for kind of reasons that they didn't organize it right, and they was afraid they was going to get caught. So
No.
they said, well, let's do this organized. Anyway, I was secretary of that for a year. Well, she helped me write my newsletters. If it hadn't been for her, a newsletter would have probably been about 2 lines, and that would have been it. So she helped me do all that and get them out. But yeah, the people in the knife community know who she is.
She's almost as
she-
big a celebrity as
She's
you
a big
are.
celebrity as I am. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I knew her as good as they knew me. And like I say, she helped me do all that and helped me pack up stuff and get it all together.
I was about to say, when you went to the Alamo and you went to the knife show and you went to France, you didn't go alone.
No, I didn't go on.
And it
Nope.
sounds like she earned her
She was
trip.
right there with me.
Yeah.
Right there with me.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, right there with me. Big part of my life. Of course, we've been married 50 some odd years.
Really.
Yeah.
Now, where is she? Is she from Texarkana too, or Atlanta?
She was born in Vivian, Louisiana.
Okay.
But now her daddy worked in the oil field and the little old town of Strong, Arkansas, on the other side of El Dorado.
Okay.
Is where she kind of grew up, and her daddy moved over here for a job to get out of the oil field, which actually was DNZ. He was a boiler operator. And I was introduced to her by my aunt. And this kind of sounds funny. her uncle married my aunt. Said, oh, you married your cousin. No. Her uncle married my aunt. Okay, you got that?
I'm trying,
Yeah,
Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the same uncle and aunt, and we have one set of first cousins together, but we're not blood kin.
Yeah.
But and I knew her grandparents. They lived at Vivian, my grandparents, and all, and they had 2 houses of eggs, and we stayed with them while Daddy was off on construction. As I said, he went to North Dakota on a silo, and Mama with him, and our youngest brother, me and my oldest brother stayed with our grandparents down here that summer, because we didn't want to go. And that's the way they made their living. They had 2 houses, and they raised chickens and they sold eggs.
Okay.
Door to door, and they had the grocery store down there in Vivian. They supplied them with eggs, and we peddled eggs to her grandparents, which I knew there in Vivian. We probably missed each other by just a little bit
That's the way life
through
works,
the years. But then she moved here, and we just introduced, and we started dating, and we got married.
How many kids do you have?
3.
3, and grandkids?
Grandkids, 6. I think it's 6. I have great grandkids.
4 great grandkids?
4 great
Wow.
grandkids. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened to me. Is
That's what
I
happened.
decided to get out of the knife business. I was getting a little older, and it just got to where it was a little drudgery.
No.
And to do that kind of work and what I was doing, because I stood behind the knife grinder. I would spend like Saturday 10, 12 hours behind that grinder,
Really?
sitting there grinding on knives. I'd forge during the week, or at night. I told people, I said, I'd come home if I didn't have to work over at the paper mill. I spent 2 hours in the shop every day after I got home from work. Saturday was my big day. I spent at least 10 hours in the shop. We got finished with church. I'd come home, eat. I'd go to the shop. I'd spend the rest of the evening in the shop. So that's where luckily
That's a lot of dedication. Dedication's evident not only in your work, but
and I was very fortunate. Benefit allowed me to spend that much time. Of course, I tried to spend as much time with the kids, and we'd go to the lake together, and I'd just take time off. But when I went to the lake, I carried work with me.
did you?
Yes.
You know, what kind of work would you do while you were at the lake? Sharpen or polish?
I would have a knife, and I would hand finish it,
Hmm.
because I could carry my sandpaper and everything I needed to clamp it to the table. One of them tables out there, I hand sanded knives, pull it up there. You know, maybe a couple, 3 hours.
So
a
while
day.
other people are reading books, you were working on
While
knives.
they're down swimming or whatever, I'm working. But it
That's
takes that
awesome.
kind of dedication.
Yeah.
You know, and I was dedicated. I said dedicated to it. I wouldn't have done it had I not wanted to.
Yeah.
It was something that I was created, that outlet, and it just was a creativity that I loved. And like I say, it's got further along, and I've done it so many years till it got hard for me to stand in front of that grinder, and I just didn't want to. And I quit the blade show in 2015. I had enough orders on my books. At one time, I had enough orders. I was like 2 and 3 years behind. And that's hard to tell fellas, say,
In 3 years from now.
yeah, you want that knife? It'll be 3 years before you can get it. But it did allow me, as I retired, to help that order. But even when I quit the blade show, I worked another 2 or 3 years, and I didn't take orders, just to finish up on my orders.
Yeah.
And even early on, I used to take a deposit. But I said, this is crazy. I'm not going to do that anymore. I said, well, I'll give you $100 or $200 to get you on. No, I'll put you on the list. When I get finished with it, I'll call you if you still want it. I had a fella call me, maybe a year after there or so, said I lost my job. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, if you get to where you got another job, you want it, I said, you just call me and I'll put you back on the list. I said, you don't owe me anything.
you'll find somebody to.
Because I was selling plenty of them that I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't take a deposit. I quit that. I didn't do that very long at all. No deposit. When I get it made, I'll call you, and you can pay for it at that time.
Wow.
And like I say, he just, people have problems
Yep.
like that, and that's okay. So I didn't worry about it. I might have even started on the knife that if I did, I just took somewhere else over there.
Yeah.
It wasn't no big deal.
Well, your knives were in big enough demand. You didn't have to worry about where you're going to sell it. And it was going to come, and you didn't need to hold that against anybody. Yeah, that's awesome.
I had at least a 3-year backlog, and when I went to shows, I only went 2 shows, as I told you, that I didn't sell a knife, and that was in a period of time everybody was holding on to the money. You have a recession, and for somebody that's collecting knives, that's just kind of, you have to have the money to want to do that.
Yeah.
If it's not there in a big recession and you're kind of struggling a little bit, you're not going to buy a custom made knife for $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. You're not going to do that. And I wouldn't, so I didn't expect him to.
Yeah.
But I was very lucky. It worked good. I built that shop out there. I bought a lot of equipment. The air hammer I bought was like $6,000. Paid for that. I mean, it paid for all that equipment.
Yeah.
Them 2 grinders. The second, I was doing enough work. I had one grinder, old grinder I had for years that I started with, and I bought this variable speed grinder. It was like $2,500 or $3,000, something like that. I got to where that if I didn't have $5,000 in my business account, I was worried. Because I was liable to go to the blade show and buy $2,000 to $3,000 worth of equipment. Because I would buy my handle material, because I always like to look at it, stag or whatever it was, or ivory, because I want to have eyes on it and pick the very best that I could pick out. One of them shows I went and stag got to where it was very high. I bought some stag and I could roll it up my hands like that, and I believe it was $500 worth.
Wow.
And I could hold it in my hands like that. See, stag don't come from here. It comes out of India. It comes from a axial deer, because the deer is big enough that you can have a pretty good slab.
Yeah.
And the color, I'm always I wanted beautiful color, the stag looking pretty. So you give a premium for it. Early on, it was not that bad, but then India had a ban, or I think they had a ban on it, exporting it, and it got to where there was still some filtering in from other places, but it wasn't much, and it just kind of the price of it went way up.
Was that one of your favorite materials to make handles out of, stag?
Yeah. All natural handle materials, but I like stag, ivory. Done a lot of ivory, and you can still get ivory. You can even still get elephant ivory, but most of the ivory that you get is fossilized, like walrus ivory.
Yeah.
And with the tusk, it's been fossilized in the earth. But it makes beautiful colors. You can get browns, blue, and depends on what color it is. Brown is most predominant. You get into blues and greens, you don't find any of them, so the price goes up.
But we didn't talk much about handles, but I'm getting the impression that people, that's almost as important as the blade.
Oh yeah. You have people that specify, okay, well, I like that this, I like that.
What was the most hardest handle material you had to find off a customer?
Well, I could always find just about anything that you wanted. It not necessarily was hard. You may have to look around different suppliers.
What was the most unique one then?
I found a piece of it wasn't ivory, it was mother of pearl. Because mother of pearl is the shell. Well, you gotta get a pretty good sized shell, and this knife was pretty big to get a big enough piece to make that. Or I can make that. But you can still find it.
You can still find it.
Yeah. But I was able to find a piece of mother of pearl to put on both sides that fit that bigger handle.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now you also made sheets for these
Yes,
knives,
I made
correct?
I tell people that nothing went out of my shop that I didn't do. Nobody else touched it. I didn't send it to a sheath maker. I didn't send it to somebody to do this or do that. Everything that was in my shop that sent out of my shop was made by me. I learned how to do leather work, and that's what I done. Whatever it was, that's what I done. This, as you seen that dagger in there that's on the wall, that sheath is made out of elephant skin. It's got a wood liner, because elephant skin is real thin.
Yeah.
It's about as thick as that. It's not very thick. And you actually can get elephant skin still.
Yeah, there's boots. You can get elephant
Boots,
skin
yeah,
boots.
yeah.
They're pretty popular right now.
But anyway, it's a wood liner, and it's wrapped with elephant, and it has nickel silver tip and throat. Now them are the hardest to make, and a lot of time you spend on them, because the sheath, you almost, not as much as probably the knife, because that was a Damascus knife and they had ivory handle and all that, so that's quite expensive. But the sheath was pretty good price.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because so much time in the nickel silver and throat to make them. You had to build a jig to wrap them on and get them together where you can weld them together, solder them together.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, I started making them out of stainless steel, and I would wrap them and heat arc them together, so it was all one piece. Whereas the nickel silver, because like the bottom one, you couldn't wrap it all the way around because it come to a point so you made two clamshells and you silver soldered. Well, over a period of time, as it, of course, as tight as you can get it, it will oxidize and you'll be able to see that line. It will be very faint, but it'll be there. Now, if you keep something on to keep from oxidizing, you will never see it. It's pretty close. But them, there's a lot of time in that. A lot of time in that. And I built full metal sheaths for the whole knife. And not a leather sheath, but a full full metal sheath out of nickel silver and stainless steel. They're hard to make too. You have to
Where do you go to? Is that something you just picked up, or did you go to another?
No.
Did you get taught by anybody?
Just hard-headed enough. If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Same thing. When I shot at the gun club, when I first started shooting a 45 on a 1911 45. Well, a lot of them at the gun club, they was checkered on the front, where the front strap comes around there. They was checkered. Well, mine wasn't checkered. It was factory, had some serration on it, but it didn't have checkered. I said, well, I'm kind of halfway smart. Found me a place, found me a checking file. I bought that checking file.
Mm-hmm.
Got it here. It cost me like $30. A lot of money for this checking file. It's about yay long, about yay wide. It's not very big. So if I can do it, I can do it. So I taught my house that. I checked it. Then I started working on other people's guns, and that's what I started.
Well, yeah, that's a nice little segue then.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah,
going to ask,
and-
did you
and
start
that's-
gunsmithing?
Yeah. In fact, I was doing so much work. I applied for FFL, which is the same as a dealer's license.
Yeah.
And I got it under a gunsmithing license. I didn't intend to buy or sell guns, but you had the FFL. I was afraid that I was doing so much work. If somebody come say, "Oh, Roger over here, you can see your gun over there," I might get in trouble. So I got it, so I had to keep books and all that stuff and all. Because once you get the gun, you register in your book. Then when you send it back, you got to register it out and send it to your customer. But yeah, I was doing a lot of work like that.
Did you, was it as refined as the Bowie knife that we have here in front of us, or?
Yeah, I tried to make mine as
Yeah.
good as good. Yeah, the checking job, I thought, well, if I mess it up, and at that time they sold what called Packmire grip, is grips, rubber, and would wrap around the front and the handles on there. I said, oh, I said, Packmire's not covered up. Nobody, I won't never tell nobody. But I've still got the gun in there right now. It's
What was your favorite kind of gun to work on? 1911 or?
in 1911. Yeah.
Is that all you? Is that what you generally worked on?
Yeah,
Just
I've done a
1911s?
few revolvers because we got shooting what you call plates. They're 8 inches, 6 inches diameter, and with revolvers, and you're about 25 yards from them, and you come up and you these plates will fall down, and it's all time related. You ever heard of the Bianchi cup?
I don't think I have, no sir.
Well, it was incorporated by the name Bianchi. You ever heard of Bianchi leather?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, well then Bianchi, he created this Bianchi cup. I guess they still have it, I don't know. Anyway, the sharpshooters would go up to the Bianchi cup and you'd shoot plates. You'd shoot a moving target. You, from behind the barricade. There were several, but Bianchi plates was one of them. And when they first started, you shot the plates until you missed. There's 6 plates, because you shoot it with a revolver. If you had a revolver, you shoot it with a semi-automatic if you had it. But a lot of them used revolver back then, so I had a guy in Glendale, Arizona, redo a Smith & Wesson Model 10, which is a 38 Super, 38 Special, excuse me. Put a bull barrel on it, and I could put optical sights on it, and it's got an 1.25 inch bull barrel now, so it's kind of heavy. But you come up and bang, 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 and you time. And what you do is you start, I think, at 25 yards, then you go 20, or you start it, anyway, you back up to the last one, and then shoot them till you miss one. One of the top guys back in the 80s when I was there was named Brian Ennis, and he shot 500 and some odd plates. Nobody had shot that many. I mean, he won the tournament. He was going to win the tournament, but he still had to shoot it till. And they said, read an article, and he said, well, I got this over with. So what he done, he come up, shot a couple of them, said you could actually see him. He pulled it down, shot under the plate, and then finished the plates up. So he missed one.
Just so
he wouldn't have to do anymore.
Yeah.
500 and some odd.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I was heavy into that, and like I said, I started shooting guns. Started with 45, I ended up with a 38 Super with a compensator on it that I built, totally built. It was a 9mm, and I converted it to a 38 Super. I done all the work on it, machine work and the checkering, and I built the compensator. I built
Built it all.
Built it all. Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back.
Yeah.
We've been going for a couple hours now.
Yeah. But yeah, I can show you them. I mean, I like them. I've still got them. Yeah, but I've done some trigger jobs for people at the gun club. Done some jobs from people other sent me the guns, stuff like that, and trigger jobs. I got to where you can slick them up pretty good. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I transferred over, got really involved in knife picking, and quit doing that, and off to knife making. Yeah, I was shooting so much till I bought a loader, and you never heard of them, Dillon, but that was a big deal. I bought one because I was loading on a single stage press, and it took me so long to load on that for practice. Like it took me all week to load enough for practice that Saturday, and then when the match come up, maybe the next Saturday, I had the next week. So I bought a progressive loader from Dillon. That was a big name in the industry, and I was doing very good. But I had to change out because I was shooting 45s, and then I would shoot 38 specials in my revolver. So I was having to change out. So I bought what they call a Dillon 1050. It'll load 1,000 an hour, and it will.
You tested it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You could load 1,000 rounds per hour.
Wow.
And I had it set up for my 38 Super because that's where most of the stuff that I was shooting, because I'd shoot when I ordered primers from my supplier, because I had FFL, I could order them. The price point was $5,000, so I got them cheaper, $5,000. I never ordered anything less than $5,000. My slugs pretty well price point $5,000, so I ordered at least $5,000. I'd shoot 25,000, 30,000 rounds a year.
Wow.
So I had to have a progressive press to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But working on guns paid for my habit.
Just like the knives did, I guess.
Just like the knife.
Yeah.
That was kind of another, said, well, it's a hobby. Well, yeah, I guess if you want to call it a hobby, I guess it's a hobby, but you got to want to do it. Plus, I got to make money. Because
Yeah.
I said that little shop out there, and of course it's tore down now because it was so bad a shape. I said there's probably $8,000 or $10,000 worth of equipment in there. And then what I've got in this big shop is another couple $1,000. I said, you know, I can't just go and keep spending this.
And the paper mill, and paid for that?
Yeah, it paid part of it when I got started.
Yeah.
It did. But we was able to go. Like I say, the trip we took to France, I took it out of my business account.
Yeah.
I paid for it. That metal shop out there paid for that. When I walked away from my metal shop, it was totally paid for.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to do that. But you know, same thing. It was something I wanted to do. Something I was enthused about doing. It wouldn't. It was work, but I enjoyed the work. It's like I told you, I took 2 weeks to go to that school. Worked hard for 2 weeks. I'm talking about hard. Come home, because I drove back and forth. I was lucky that I lived here. Well,
Yeah, I was
that's
gonna say.
40 miles or so, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was all right. And I was tired, but I get up the next morning and go do it again. Yeah, I enjoyed every 2 weeks of it. Every 2 weeks of it.
That's awesome. Well, Jeff, got any other questions?
I know I'm gonna
Yeah,
think of the perfect question when I get in that car and start driving off.
Yeah,
but right now, I don't know what I do.
All right.
And I enjoy talking. Like I say, I enjoy people, and I enjoy talking to people, and that was a big deal about the knife deals, to go on the shows and seeing these people. I'll tell you a story about it. And I didn't. Anybody that come up in front of my table, I don't care what they look like. You know, some people say, well, I had a woman come up to my table. This is years and years ago, before I made Master Smith. In fact, I made a dagger, because for your Master Smith, and I'll go back to that in just a minute. She was looking at that dagger, and I knew I had to make one for my masters, because you make 5 knives. Now, you do your cut test and all that stuff, but then you have to go to the show and show 5 knives of your example, and they will grade you on that. And that's
Okay.
when you get your masters, or your journeyman or your masters. So for masters, you have to have a Damascus bladed European quillion dagger, which European quillion means the quill, the guard comes out on the
Okay.
side. You know, just like a dagger that you normally see. So I knew I had to make one next year, and I never had made a dagger. So I thought, well, I'll make a carbon steel dagger, and I got a piece that looked like actually it was micarta, but it looked like ivory. You can get the paper micarta, and it looked like ivory, and I fluted it. I built me a jig because it was kind of barrel shape, and a guy showed me how he had a jig, and you could flute that and make it all nice, even flutes all over.
Mm-hmm.
So it turned out real good. Well, she's looking at this dagger, and like I say, I never preconceived what that person was. They was there as a customer. I don't care what they look like or what they are. I'm engaged with them. And I'm talking to her. By the way, she looked like she just got off Harley out front. Not a big deal. I used to have one. Anyway, she said, well, how much is it? And the guy was with me. I assume it was her husband. I don't know. Said, well, I think I'm gonna buy that. He just, nodded. He was kind of unconcerned. She was interested. I mean, he was there, but he was there. But I mean, he wasn't.
But you were dealing with her.
I was dealing with her. She's a customer. So anyway, said, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. I told her the price, and she pulls up her leg and pulls up her bitch leg, and in the sock she pulls out $100 bills and paid me. Well, okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here to sell, and you got their money. I'm good with it. But maybe 10 or 15 years later, I hadn't seen her since then. She come up to me and said, "You remember me?" I said, "Well, no, ma'am, I really don't." Said, "I was the one that bought that. Remember that dagger?" I said, "Yes, I remember exactly." Well, I still got it. Still got it. Okay, well, good deal. That's another thing, and I'll tell this about her. I'll tell it about another customer. The guy that actually I sold it, my art dagger to, was a collector. And I'd see him every year, and then all of a sudden he quit coming, maybe 5-6 years, and he'd come back to show. His business, he got real involved in his business, something like that, and he said, I just quit kind of coming. And I said, wait, I remember you. I remember his face. And said, I can't remember your name. I was bad about names anyway. And he said, well, so I just wanted to know that he bought that art dagger and a Bowie. He said, I still got them. Said, that's still the center of my collection.
Really?
Wow. Now we talking about several years later. In his collection, that is still the center of his collection, and he still had it. Now that's the stories that I got from a lot of people.
Yeah.
I sold a guy in Michigan a hunter, and the first year he had it, and a lot of people just collect these knives. They don't you never use them.
Right.
And I understand that. You know, I'm okay with it. I build them used. Before you ever get it, I've done cut and done everything with it. So if you don't cut with it, that's what it's for. Anyway, he sent me a picture of a big deer. Their deer up there is a lot larger than our deer. He said, we cut that deer up and quartered it all up and skinned it and all, and said the people in deer camp said they were surprised that it would, without resharpening it.
Yeah. One knife do the whole thing.
They'd done the whole thing. Had another customer bought a Bowie knife, never sold him another, never met him. I called me on the phone, told him what I had one. He said, well, I'm looking for something like that, and a friend of yours told me you had one. I said, I do. He said, well, how much is it? And I told him. I said, explained to him what it looked like. He didn't. I said, I'll tell you what, you want it, you send me a check, I'll send you the knife. If you don't want it, when you get it, if you don't like the way it looks, or you don't like the way it cuts, or anything about it you don't like, you just call me and I'll tear the check up. You send the knife back, we're good. He said, okay. I said, Lord, that's the deal. So it went on, I got the check, sent him the knife. Of course I did go ahead and put the check in there so it wouldn't go bad, but I'd write him another one. And didn't hear from him. It rocked along a year and a half. He called me on the phone one day, said, just thought I'd tell you, we was on the Mississippi River, evidently took some kind of tour on the Mississippi River, and I don't know what kind of deal that is. Said a bunch of us was cutting vines. We stopped along the river, was cutting vines out of the tree as big as my finger. Well, I don't know how, because I never met him. I don't know how big his finger was. I said, oh, okay. He said, just wanted to know when we got back to the boat, the crew couldn't believe it. It didn't need resharpening. Said it was still sharp. Said we're just having fun chopping vines out of trees. Okay. But that's what it makes.
Yeah, that's the feedback.
That's the feedback, and you know, I'm glad that it performed for him.
No.
It done what it's supposed to want to do, and it stayed with him.
No.
It didn't break. It didn't crack. It didn't.
I was afraid when you started telling that story about being in the Mississippi. I was sure afraid that he was going to call and say, "I just want to let you know that your knife is at the bottom of the Mississippi."
Yeah, I need another one.
Well, I did have a customer said he had carried it hunting all and that year, and he said evidently somewhere after he got out of the truck or something had come out, and he did lose it. But now he said, it was my fault. It's not. I said, well, he bought another knife from it, but it was kind of sad. But he did lose it.
Yeah, and I'm sure it happens.
Yeah, it happened.
All right, well, I think we're going to wrap it up here.
All right. I'm glad y'all
Sir,
come.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate.
Anytime. Like I said, I get wound up sometimes on these, and I can talk. Bill Fay said you talk your ears off. I said, well, I can't help it.
So the last question we'll ask is, one of the things that we're exploring is showing this knife putting this knife on display in City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey will maintain ownership of it, but he wants a way to share this and the story. And so I think what he's asking me is,
I'm making motions
Yeah.
over here. I mean, essentially, what they've offered to do is insure the knife, you know, just in case it's
Yeah.
stolen
Something happened to
or
it?
something happened to it. I don't know what the thing's worth,
Okay.
and wondering if you could give some info as what you think it might be worth.
Yeah.
Or,
If I made another one right now, I wouldn't make one less than 6,000.
6,000.
I'll tell you exactly. Well, Jeffrey, I don't know. Have you told him what the original price was?
wasn't it 4? Or was it 35?
3,500.
Yeah, 35.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for insurance purposes, you would think somewhere in the
Yeah, 5,000 to
6.
6,000 range.
Yeah.
To have it reproduced or have somebody make another one, and I was told by Jerry Smith that he wouldn't make one for less than 10,000.
Okay.
But you know,
So maybe somewhere in the 6 to 10
yeah,
range.
yeah, it's gonna be somewhere there.
Yeah.
Because
I've been offered 10.
Yeah.
In real life,
I knew you
yeah.
had.
have you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Guy told me he'd pay me 10 right now. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's
Well, that's what we wanted to do, or at least I wanted to do. Is I didn't want to get them to say, okay, make 5, 6, 7, 10 of them. I wanted the price to be able to go up and realize that this is a part of history.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even though it's a reproduction, it is part of history. And there's other people make them out there. I've seen a lot of them. And I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I just feel like mine is the most closer representative of that knife as you
No,
can get.
it's very convincing when you start pulling out the paperwork and
And
the
that's
study
it.
that you did on the original, and
Yeah.
then the detail that you put into making these 2 knives.
Yeah.
And,
that's-
and we're excited that at City Hall, so City Hall's turned 100 years old this year.
Okay.
And so I've undertaken a task of taking City Hall from just a building that supports the
Right.
community, but being representative of the
Okay.
community, where we come from, who
Right.
we are now, and who we want to be in the future.
Right.
And so there's a lot of original works, but also some reproductions of Texarkana's history, not only Texarkana, but our regional history. And
And there's a lot of craftsmen in
Yeah.
Texarkana.
Yeah.
I mean, and artists.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at how many people come out of Texarkana, singers.
no,
Scott
no.
Joplin.
Scott Joplin.
I mean,
You know,
it's
so
hard.
I've got his picture. I put
And
his,
there's other artists
I
around
put
here.
his picture up in City Hall.
Yeah,
And
and I
what-
knew that Jeffrey had said even a long time ago he would like to put it in a museum here in Texarkana for people to see.
Yeah. Well, so you know what I did with Scott Joplin? So Scott Joplin, did you know he had music in Toy Story 2?
No.
Yeah, so he had music that was in Toy Story 2, and so I got his picture up in City Hall, and then I took Woody and Buzz
Okay.
and Jesse,
Yeah.
the toys, and put them around
All right.
around the picture. And you know, that's the number one thing. People pass all this beautiful work, and they just, you know, they're going from one place to the other, and maybe that just doesn't catch their eye. But you know what catches their eye? Woody and Buzz, and they go, "Oh, why do you have Woody and Buzz up on the wall?" Like, well, because Scott Joplin, who's from Texarkana, had
Yeah.
music that was in Toy
Yeah.
Story 2, and so I really want City Hall to be
Yeah.
I want people to grab people's attention, tell them about our community,
Everybody
and this
has,
is a great
has
opportunity
things
to do
that
that.
they
Yeah.
relate to
Yeah.
quicker than others.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed a lot of different arts. Not that I would ever do anything like that, or I really don't even want
Yeah.
to. But there's a lot of arts out there I enjoy seeing,
Yeah,
or
you
seeing how they're made.
you appreciate the work that went
appreciate the
into
work
it.
that goes
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
When we get finished here, I also done some blacksmithing. I'll show you some works that I've done
Okay.
with blacksmith.
Yeah.
Jeffrey might have seen some of them, might not have.
I bet I have through the years.
Well, I think I can think of at least 2 other times we got to come back. So we need to talk about gunsmithing. Now we're
Yeah.
talking about blacksmithing.
All right.
But I'd love to have you come up to City Hall and show you.
Yes.
So we're
I would
working on,
love to.
and if we can get this one,
Yeah,
part of it is getting the appraisal done. But and really that's the last piece of it.
Yeah.
And then once we get the insurance taken care of and we'll get a box to put this thing
Right.
in, I'm going to put it next to a picture of Jim Bowie, and he's got a knife. It's a picture of, or the painting of that's hanging up in the Texas State Capitol. And then I've got this one's already done, but you know we have 3 signers of the Texas Declaration of Independence who are
Okay.
from Bowie County, or what would become
wow.
Bowie County.
Yeah.
And so I've got a picture, I've got a mural of them that I put, or a little collage of them that I put together. So we'll hang Jim Bowie and those 3 people, and then that knife will be be a big part
You
of
know,
it.
there's Bowie statue there on the
Oh, I know.
Texas side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Carried you over.
Yeah, I think
with,
Jeff was telling me that
Yeah.
you got a picture in front of it
Yeah.
with the knife.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So a lot of people don't even know it's there.
I know it was put
I
in
might have known
1936.
but I think Bill Hughes told
Yeah,
me.
I
so
was
this-
reading a book the other day that has it's a cat. The book is published. It's a published catalog of all of they call them centennial markers.
Okay.
So in Texas birthday, 1836, when the Republic of Texas was formed. In 1936, they had a big to-do to celebrate that, and part of it was a series of historic markers made out of stone or other statues. And that Jim Bowie marker is one of the statues, one of the centennial statues
Okay.
placed in 1936.
Okay. See, I didn't know when it was
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and I hadn't been back. I think since we was
Yeah,
there.
we walked out. Yeah.
I know where it's at, and I say one of these days I'm gonna pull in there.
And the
just
Scott
look at
Joplin
it.
marker is right outside, right next to it.
Well, we thought about getting you to come and hold the knife and get your picture in front of it, and
Okay.
maybe put that in the box
In the
alongside the
box,
knife.
Yeah, just let me know, and when you get it all kind of together like you want to,
Yeah.
give me a call. Yeah, I'd
Yes, sir.
love to come down.
Awesome,
Love to.
awesome.
Love to.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up there.
All right.
We've got a plan for the future, and sir, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with us.
Anytime.
It